Hello and welcome to Geoscope on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes and I'm joined, as always, by the delectable Ollie Bowlerhatman. How you doing, Ollie?
There we go. I'm all right. Just making sure I'm pointing the right way, but I've got to remember to reverse which way I point.
It's all good, mate. It's all good. I don't know why your name isn't showing. Why isn't your name showing up? There
Oh,
you
it's all
go.
right.
Ollie
People should know who
Bowlerhatman.
I am by now. I mean, look at me.
Yorkshireman.
Look, have you seen how,
Yorkshireman.
how vibrant I am today?
You are. You're
This is
looking positively tropical. I like your
this is what
pineapples.
happens when I have to dress up properly and go see people during the summer. I get to bring out my Hawaiian
When you're gonna
shirt
leave the
collection.
house, you have to leave the house. God damn it! So I just want a shout out to David in the chat, Richard Grumpygate, and Simon as well, and Ori and Asperger's Europe and One Angry Pagan and Graham Price and the Gin Stitcher and Lucas and Tripod 9000 and others. Blue Badger 88 just slipped in there. Hello everyone. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat, or you just want to support the channel, press subscribe now, and your life will forever be
Improved.
76% more charming and demure. Anyway, talking of charming and demure, Trump is in the Middle East.
Oh joy!
Yay!
What joy will Trump now spread in the Middle East?
Well, the biggest arms deal in history.
Yep.
For starters, for Saudi. He's also got a plane off Qatar.
Yeah, that's being
Qatar.
talked about as being a massive bribe, apparently.
You think it's a massive bribe? A £400 million plane. £400 million. It's all decked out inside, in like 1980s gold. You know the way like 1980s gold, like African dictator gold from the 1980s.
I love that. Yes. Hello, interior decorator. Do you do
African dictator gold from the 1980s? No taste, no style.
That would be an interesting Wix color. You go to Wix, and you've got all colors. I'm looking.
It's like the yellowest gold that you can get. That's and everything has to be gilded and gold. And at $400 million, and just to show that it's not a bribe, he's got to keep it once he's not president anymore.
Yep.
So he's got that plane. He's got a $600 billion Saudi investment pledge, and this is a lot to do with the fact that Saudi's got more money than sense, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, because they've got too much money. They've just got too much money. Yeah. They got too much money in reserves, and it kind of messes. It's a bit of a weird thing, but you know the way an individual having too much money messes them up psychologically. Having too much money messes a country up. It doesn't, and that's why Mohammed bin Salman is trying to find all these mad things to spend his money on. It's like Brewster's Millions. You got to use it or you lose it, man. Yep. I don't quite know how that works, but yeah, $142 billion arms deal. The largest in US history, signed today. He's going to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE, snubbing Israel. And do you know who else is there? His business compadres, Sam Altman, Larry Fink, Steven Schwartzman, but Elon Musk. Elon Musk is in the Middle East. I thought he'd gone to ground. I thought he was in like some K-hole. I was hoping he was in a K-hole.
Yeah, this is because they want to build a new tech center. Saudi Arabia wants to try and build its own version of Silicon Valley.
They love their buzzwords in the Arabian Peninsula, I have to say.
Good luck trying to do that.
It's all going to be AI.
Good luck trying to do that.
It's all going to be AI. It's amazing. I heard on the grapevine that servers don't like the heat.
Yeah, this is the insane thing. Because if you are going to try and build that type of infrastructure in Saudi Arabia, and if you've ever been in a server room,
yes,
you know how warm it is.
Yes,
you walk in there and it's the first thing you feel.
Yes,
and the difficulty of like most people in IT, especially during now at the moment, is trying to keep that room cool.
Yes,
it's spent on all the aircon trying to keep that stuff cool. And in Saudi Arabia, it isn't cool. They are going to have to spend an absolute fortune.
To burn a lot of oil.
It's going to cost them an absolute fortune just to keep all those aircon, and they have to be going 24/7
all the time. And if they break down, then they're in a lot of trouble. I mean, it's the Arabian desert. They do have a lot of sun, so solar
solar power.
Solar panels makes sense, but if there's a power cut, like those servers are getting fried pretty damn quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I understand. Saudi Arabia needs to diversify away from oil, which is what Dubai did back in the 90s, because the ruler of Dubai back in the 90s saw that they were completely reliant on oil. And when the price of oil went up, they had more money. And when it went down, they had less money. And they're like, we don't have any control over our own economy whatsoever. Let's put our money into something else. So they diversified into building mad shit in Dubai. And now they're trying to do that in Saudi Arabia. And I've got to give Mohammed bin Salman a little bit of credit, although he is a journalist, torturing, murdering scumbag. He has made some real positive changes in Saudi Arabia over the last few years, especially when it comes to rights for people who live in Saudi Arabia. Not for people who came on Hajj from Africa and stayed and didn't leave. If you ever go to Saudi Arabia, you might be surprised by the number of homeless people in Saudi Arabia, because you don't see any homeless people in Qatar, or in Bahrain, or in Kuwait, or in UAE, or in Oman, to be honest with you. But in Saudi Arabia, people go there for the pilgrimage, and they slip through the cracks and they remain in the country, and they're not given no rights whatsoever in Saudi Arabia. But the US, I guess, is gonna profit bigly from these arms deals, but it does seem a bit, I don't know, galling that they're doing all this.
To me is, if you look at this from a foreign policy perspective, this is Saudi Arabia making a big play to be the new big player in the region.
Yeah.
Iran has lost its axis of resistance.
Yes.
So its now power base has been hugely depleted from that. Israel has its own problems now, and Saudi Arabia is the only big player.
Yeah.
It's the only big player now, and it is trying to make moves so it can really control the Middle East. This is what it's all been about. I mean,
Qatar's outsized for its population. It's got a tiny population, so it's Bahrain. But what I find a bit galling is the fact that these massive arms deals going down while children are starving a few miles away in Gaza. And it's not even being discussed. It's not being brought up. Gaza, famine, human rights. I don't even know if they're going to be talking about what's going on in Yemen. But if Saudi Arabia wants to play this role as a regional player and stop being so insular, because don't forget, from the 1930s on, since the famous meeting on Bitter Lake between the leaders of America and the leaders of Saudi Arabia, they've said that they don't really want to get interested in that involved in the politics of the region. But in recent years, they've become more and more involved.
They've become more and more of players in the region, and I think they've realised they can't.
Yeah, but they're going to be players in the region, then they're going to have to address this issue, this absolutely horrific situation in Gaza, where the Israelis are just taking the absolute piss. I'm really, really pissed off that they've got someone singing in the Eurovision Song Contest. In the same way that Russia has been kicked out of the Eurovision Song Contest, quite rightly, I think Israel should be as well. If you don't want to make it political, they say. I mean,
well, you've already kicked Russia out. Why haven't we kicked Israel?
It's making it, the act of bloody putting yourself on a platform is political. Music's political. It always has been.
Yeah. We'll see what happens during the. It kicked off today, apparently, hasn't it? Eurovision Song Contest.
Oh, has it? Why? What happened?
Yeah, so it's all the semi-finals this week. So you've got, I think, today, tomorrow, and I think Friday or Saturday is the final.
Yeah, Saturday is the final.
Can't remember now exactly, but yeah, as always, Eurovision Song Contest. Just release My Lovely Horse every year. That's all they need to do.
2 years ago, I was there at the final in Liverpool. It was fucking boss. It was really, really good. It was dead sunny as well. It was just a really good atmosphere. But yeah, Saudi, I'll stress now, has always meddled in regional politics and world politics, to be honest with you.
Yeah, especially because of its oil, especially because of OPEC.
Yeah, OPEC, and the big one for me is when in the 1990s, Saudi and other OPEC members strong-armed the UN into when they were going to have Committee of Parties meetings at COP 30 this year. They for climate change, they decided that it had to be consensus vote. It couldn't be majority vote, which they did that knowing that all the countries in the world are never going to come to a consensus on what to do about climate change. And so here we are 30 years later, 30 years later, and they still haven't come to any kind of agreement. And that's the Saudis did that. The Saudis also paid for madrasa schools all over the Islamic world, from Morocco all the way over to Indonesia. And kids who went to those schools they're very, very super religious schools.
Yep. Wahhabism, I believe it's called.
Wahhabism. It's a sect of Sunni Islam, which is very, very militant. It's kind of like quite extreme. It's kind of like Southern Baptists compared with the rest of Christianity. So the Southern Baptists make the Catholic Church look soft and cuddly in comparison, and it's a bit like that. Because of the Wahhabist kind of mentality, the Wahhabist creed that kids learnt in these madrasa schools that were being funded by Saudi Arabia, we had a wave of people who grew up wanting to be terrorists. Unfortunately, wasn't the only factor, but it definitely was one of the factors. So when I say Saudi Arabia's, finally stepping up to the mark or whatever, it's always been meddling in the background, but now it wants to try and launch itself forward on the world stage. And that's why you saw they were pushing for talks between Ukraine and Russia in Saudi Arabia, and, that being the big sort of peace brokers there. But big arms deals going on a few hundred miles away from where kids are starving because the country next to them won't allow food into the country. Yeah.
And of course, all the stuff, Yemen pretty much is their fault.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Yemen was two countries, and then it became one country. And it's one of those places where it's been difficult because you've got two groups of distinct groups of people living there. You've got the Sunni Muslims, and then you've got the Shiite Muslims who tend to get called Houthis over there. They're part of the Houthi sect, and that's why they're getting funded by Iran, which is a Shia or Shiite religion, Islam. And it's a tyranny of small differences. It's like Northern Ireland. Why are you killing each other, guys? Why are you blowing each other up? Why are you doing this? Oh, because they think that when you drink the blood of Jesus Christ during communion, it actually turns into his blood. And we think it's just symbolic.
Yep.
Cool.
Sunni and Shia. You understand why the Middle East is like it is? You've got to understand the difference between Sunni and Shia.
Yeah. Yeah, but also, I mean, look, what was the big schism between Croatia and Serbia? They speak the same language, but do you know what the big schism was? The letters they use. So in Serbia, they use Cyrillic lettering. In Croatia, they use Latin lettering. It's the same language. They use the same words for things. When they're talking to each other, it's exactly the same language.
In fact, do you remember? I think it was one of our early episodes. We covered that.
Yeah.
About Serbia, in Kosovo, or Kosovan Serbs using different license plates.
Yes.
For their lettering.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah.
You see, you're learning stuff. You're learning stuff.
There was a really good essay by Christopher Hitchens. This is years ago, obviously before he died, and it was called something like The Tyranny of Small Differences, and it always stayed with me because look at the two main branches of Islam. You've got Sunni and Shia, Sunni and Shiite or Shia. They both worship the same God. they both worship, well, they both revere the same prophet, Muhammad. They both have the same holy sites in Mecca and Medina. They both, the similarities are legion.
Yeah.
Except after Muhammad died, one group believed that one of his wives continued on his tradition, and the others thought that it was his uncle who carried on the tradition. And
biggest comparison to us is Eastern and Western Christianity. That's probably the closest.
Yeah, Orthodox Christianity versus Catholic. Well, then you got Catholic and Protestant as well. And then you got the Protestant religion, which is split up into lots of different sects: the Church of England, Presbyterians, the Methodists, the Seventh-day Adventists, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's and they all worship the same God. Yep. They all revere the same Jesus Christ. They all read from the same holy book. The Quran, as far as I'm aware, the Quran in Tehran is exactly the same. Translation perhaps, but it's the same as the Quran in Riyadh or in London or wherever the fuck you're reading it. It's not a different book. We've got a couple of super chats come in. That's very kind of people. SG, thank you very much. Bin Laden was Saudi Arabian, but somehow 1 million Iraqis were killed for what he did. Yeah.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more. Like, I can find some justification for the first Gulf War because Kuwait had been invaded. And a sovereign country had been invaded by its neighbour, by its larger neighbour. And we went in and kicked the larger neighbour out, which is what we should have done in Ukraine.
And they were using chemical weapons.
And they were using chemical weapons.
Let's not forget that.
Yeah, against the Kurdish people living in the north, in Suleimania and Erbil. The second Gulf War, it wasn't even the Gulf War, it was the Iraq War. The Iraq War. An absolute nonsense. If you squint your eyes really, really tightly together, you could just about work out some kind of justification for the invasion of Afghanistan because the Taliban were shit. And they were probably funding international terrorism. But Afghanistan's piss poor, mate. There's nothing there. Yeah. Saudi Arabia, they can afford to fund shit like that without even missing a beat, And was Osama bin Laden found in Afghanistan? No, he was found in Pakistan. It just was. We got another super chat from Paula Thomas as well. Thank you. Saudi is too rigid a society to foster the kind of creative thought needed for the innovation of Silicon Valley. I agree. And what they'll do is they'll bring people in from all over the world. Do you know who would be really good, I think, at setting up a Silicon Valley? Iran. Oh, we got the BIM podcast networks lot have just joined us. Hello! We've been raided! We've been raided, Ollie! Yay! How you all doing? We also got a super chat in from Tim. Thank you very much. Paula Thomas, it's not the same with China. Their development and use of RISC-V will kill Intel and keep money out of the US. Well, they had a new AI system, didn't they? That took up like 1% of the processing power of ChatGPT, which is good. Oh, have you heard about this thing in America with Elon Musk and his AI server farm?
Oh no, do tell. Right. I haven't heard this one.
Right, so I saw the word. Let me just look it up, so I'm not talking bollocks.
Are we having like a pre-Terminator moment?
No, it's Should I be prepping just in case?
So
a data company in Memphis, Tennessee, right? Artificial intelligence company owned by Elon Musk. It's belching smog-forming pollution into an area of South Memphis that already leads the state in emergency department visits for asthma. There are 35 methane gas turbines that are being used. 35 turbines, mate. Being used to help power XAI's massive supercomputer.
This is why you go and you ask Grok like stupid inane questions, because it costs Elon Musk I don't know how much money.
The planet. But none of these 35 methane gas turbines is equipped with pollution controls that are usually required by federal rules, because obviously,
I wonder how he's getting away with that.
Bezzy's with the president. They've only been in Memphis for 11 months, and the area is already considered unhealthy due to smog. He's literally created a smog farm. right in a place where they all vote for Republican, they all vote for the smog. I mean, just the horror of it all. Like, he could power that in green ways. He could power it through solar, through wind. He could, if he wants to, he could go nuclear. If he's got the money for it. He's got the money to build a few nuclear plants. Wouldn't miss it.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
What an absolute freaking scumbag. What a remarkable scumbag. Anyway, so just to go back to what I was saying about Afghanistan, if you squint, you can see a reason for invading, just about. But Iraq, there was never a reason. There was never a reason. Oh, hello, thank you.
Oh,
handed a coffee by my
been handed a coffee.
glamorous assistant. Thank you. I needed that. Oh my god! When I saw that story about Musk and I saw the word turbine, I thought it was like wind turbines. I thought, how are wind turbines causing pollution? I've got to know more about this. And then I looked it up and it's like, no, they're just burning the dirtiest fuel they possibly can. Yeah. Tim, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. The Register of Copyright for the US has been sacked because she was going to prosecute AI companies for copyright violations. I was talking about that. I was saying we should steal all the copyright from American stuff. We should just suspend copyright for American IP.
Thing is, copyright needs to be changed now.
Needs to be changed.
I think the copyright laws need to be changed. Like, you look at how it is now, and so many companies abuse copyright or sit on like IP and then never use it.
Yeah.
With the sole intent of just making sure that no one else can.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got things like, again, real big fan of Pirates of Dark Water. If anyone remembers, one of the very last Hanna-Barbera cartoons ever made.
I don't know. I've never even heard of it, mate.
So it's a really actually cool kind of premise about it. Kind of, typical like early 90s stuff. But it is sort of like a kind of cool premise that they did, all about it. And the guy in the creator who's owned it has been trying for years to get the rights back to like do it again on Netflix or do something else, use the IP with it. He can't because Warner Brothers are just sitting on the rights because they own Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything with it. There's a game that came out again in like the mid 2000s called Metal Arms Glitch in the System.
Yeah.
Again, the game came out. The company, EA, I think it's EA that owns it, just sitting on the copyright, not even doing any games with it. They're just squatting on the copyright. Again, the creators tried to get the rights back so that he can do stuff with the IP. He's even offered to buy it. They won't even let the creator who came up with it actually buy it.
Oh god, it's so frustrating. Dogma, the Kevin Smith film, that was not available for many, many years. You couldn't download it. You couldn't watch it on streaming. You couldn't buy it on a DVD because of the rights problems with the rights. And finally, it's getting a cinema re-release this year, which is good. Right, let's crack on, shall we? Do you want to tell us about what's happening with Zelensky versus Putin?
Yes.
The Istanbul showdown.
Oh, yes. So this, we'll wait and see what happens because at the moment they're going on this whole, as you all know, there's been this back and forth. Will there or will there not be a ceasefire? Putin, of course, keeps on breaking all these ceasefires that he said he's going to sort of implement.
That he's always
and
done.
Now this has put some pressure on, from Trump at last on Russia because he has now threatened secondary sanctions. Also, something that has been missed recently, we've actually tightened a lot of restrictions on the Russian shadow fleet that we've talked about before. So those have got into effect as of last week, at the end of last week. So those have now gone into effect. So one of the few things that, again, is keeping Russia afloat, the Russian shadow fleet, now being sort of, again, sanctioned.
Oh, hang on. Hang on, mate. I've just pressed the wrong button. Sorry.
Oh no, are we?
I moved my keyboard and it pressed the button on my little Stream Deck thing and it pressed the button to end the show. So sorry about that. Anyone who got a shock.
We're back.
We're back. We're back.
We're back.
We're not going
We're
just
back.
yet. We're still here. Sorry, Ollie. I'll just repeat what you just said.
Yeah. So, where are we? Yeah. So, basically, Putin is in trouble. We've talked about this before about 2025. People like Lavrov, other people in the Russian government have said like 2025 is like we can't really fight past this. We've burnt through a lot of equipment, manpower. They're the ones who are constantly attacking for very little gain.
Yeah.
In most cases, they are losing at this point. They need to sort of put up or shut up, and they are all at this point now of where Zelensky's gone. Tell you what, we'll have this meeting in Russia, not in Russia, in Turkey. But a lot of the Western people have also been pushing this week. A lot of the Western leaders have been sort of pushing as well to have a 30-day ceasefire as like a condition for these talks to happen. That still a little bit up in the air about that condition, whether that will happen or not. But will these talks happen? I don't know. Zelensky is pushing for Putin himself to be there.
Yeah.
Because last time these talks happened were right at the start of the war.
Yeah.
Right at the start of the war. And Putin essentially sent his version of Nadine Dorris to I know. It's the best way to describe him, really. Yeah, he, like I say, he sent his version of Dean Doris to these talks, and I think we've just talked about these talks before about Russia's crazy demands. What it wanted to absolutely, completely strip Ukraine of any of its army, its defense capabilities. They were only like allowed to have like 5 artillery pieces for this, and I think they wanted to cut the army size down to like 65,000 troops, which to defend a country like Ukraine against a future Russian invasion would be pretty much impossible. At that point, it would just not be feasible to be able to defend the amount of territory they would have to defend. Yeah. All these kinds of crazy demands, and of course, that all fell through. Now, if of course Putin does go, what's going to get discussed? What's Putin going to say this time? What's he going to demand? Is he going to back down on anything? We don't know. So again, talks are happening. Good. Again, that is good when we can see this. Maybe this could be the start of the end. Maybe this is just the start of the beginning of the end. I don't know, but I am hopeful. I am somewhat hopeful. Yeah. Maybe this could be, some form of start to the end of this conflict. But
hope springs eternal.
Yeah, I am not that confident because Putin has said he's not
Putin
going.
is Putin.
Yeah, because again, Putin is Putin. He's dodged so many different, peace deals, ceasefires in the past, you name it.
Yeah. So, talking of Putin, 2 weeks ago, the Kyiv Independent reported that there was a massive, major Russian troop buildup on the Finnish border. And it's finally been talked about in the mainstream press in the UK, but it's only on news sources like the Mail and stuff like that. So maybe take it with a pinch of salt. There's nothing about it in the Guardian. There's nothing about it on the BBC website at the moment. But in Kamenka on the border, really close to the Finnish border, there's 130 new installations. There's helicopters, armor, there's barracks, and obviously this comes after Finland, as well as Sweden, joined NATO in the last couple of years. Has NATO really made Finland safer, or has it just made it more of a target?
Well, if Putin attacks, it's Article 5. And we've talked about this before about would Putin do something to test Article 5?
Yeah.
And I think if he's going to test Article 5 in any way, shape, or form, he's going to be in Estonia by a city called Novara. Because the Estonian-Russian border is literally this straight line, except for this tiny bump, and that is the city. And Putin could just come in and just go, we're not invading all of Estonia. We're just taking this city. We're just taking this city. That's all we're taking. I'm not going to advance any further. And then the whole point is to test Article 5. Who is then, willing to go in on that? Does Trump do it? Under Biden constantly said every single square inch of NATO territory will be defended.
Yes.
Trump has said nothing like that.
I've been to Narva. That's where I crossed over into Russia on my Odyssey expedition to every country in the world. That's where I wasn't actually, it wasn't accepted by the Guinness World Records because I waded across the River Narva. So there's River Narva that comes in from Narva Bay in the Baltic. And it goes into a big lake called Narva Reservoir. Anyway, so I waded across the river to get into Russia because I didn't have to pay 150 quid for a visa. I waded halfway through, I had a little GPS with me, and once I was confident that I'd actually crossed the border, turned around, started walking back, and I saw a flare go up in the air. I was like, oh shit, is that for me? It was for me. So basically, I was walking up the bank on the other side, and the Estonian police came running down the bank and grabbed hold of me, arrested. I wasn't put in handcuffs, but I was arrested. And they sat me down and thought, what are you doing? And then I was trying to get to this island. Like I wanted to take photos of it. There's like a disused factory or something on this island in the middle of the river. And they were like, a likely story. Apparently the Russians were just going ballistic down the phone at them because they thought that I was a Russian who was trying to like sneak out of Russia. So I had to confirm that I was actually European and it was okay. I wasn't a Russian trying to escape from the shithole that is Russia. No offense to people watching this from Russia, but I don't think you're watching this if you are from Russia because you're probably not allowed to watch this because you're from Russia. But yeah. So,
and something else, speaking of military buildup,
yes.
We don't know why this is happening, but Orban has put troops on the Hungary-Ukraine border.
Okay.
Don't know why. Don't know why he's done that, but he just has.
Sounds very much like they're setting something up together because Orban and Putin are very, very close chums, aren't they?
Again, I think he would be very foolish to sort of get involved in that. I think he'd be very foolish. Hungary is not that sort of the population is not that pro Putin. Orban is, but the population is not that pro Putin. Especially they're not like pro going to getting involved in a war. That could certainly spell Orban's downfall. And then I think a lot of other EU countries would be very, very pissed off with Orban, which might actually finally kickstart Hungary being kicked out of the EU.
Well, they need to. There's an article they can activate, isn't there? Which is one stage below being actually kicked out. It just stops them from voting on stuff until they sort their shit out. And that really needs to be invoked by the rest of the EU because Hungary is holding the EU back. It's holding the EU to ransom. Why should 450 million people be held back because of the machinations of one fucking dickhead fascist dictator in Hungary, in Budapest? Kieran, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. If he attacks Finland, he's as dumb as dog crap. The Finns will have Karelia back. Oh, Karelia? Is that how you pronounce it? Like Karelia? Isn't that where Han Solo is from in Star Wars? Oh my God, are you watching Andor?
Yes, I've been watching it. Very good. I'm looking forward to the final 3 episodes.
If you like politics, I don't care whether you like Star Wars or not. In fact, it probably works better if you don't like Star Wars because it doesn't have space wizards in or magic swords or prophecies or chosen ones or anything like that. It's just about people rebelling against a mechanized fascist machine that seeks to crush free will across the universe. It's very, very timely. The last 3 episodes come out tomorrow. And next week, next Tuesday, fingers crossed, I'll be talking to Abby Heffer, who is a TikToker who does she does a lot of stuff on authoritarian regimes. She's studying a PhD on authoritarian regimes, and she's actually lived and worked in China for many years. And we're going to be talking about Andor.
Very topical.
Geeking out.
Very topical.
Because I'm a huge Star Wars fan and I'm into politics. So, Andor's like the perfect TV show for me. It's very
Andor's been so good.
And hopefully by then everyone will caught up.
All I need now is I want my Rogue One. I want my Rogue One, like proper, Starfighter series. That's what I want.
But they all die.
That's what I was promised.
But they all die.
No, I need because after
spoilers.
Rogue One becomes like the call sign for like the rebels, like
I see,
fighter like squadron. That's what I want. Where's my fighter squadron movie? It's like perfect because it's literally Star Wars took a lot of inspiration from Akira Toriyama films, but also World War II films.
Yes,
you could have. Yeah, you could have like a whole series set where you maybe have like a rebel space aircraft carrier, and it's like trying to
does missions.
Yeah, and that would be a fantastic series.
It would be.
That would be an amazing series.
Andor, though, I've got to hand it to them. It is so good. In a way, I don't want it to end tomorrow with the last 3 episodes. But in another way, I don't want them to milk it to death and make it shit. So, because the first season of Mandalorian was pretty good. The second season was all right. The third season was fucking awful. Stop it. Stop making this shit. Please.
I don't know. There were some parts of the third season I did like. But, okay, spoilers now briefly for Andor. So I'm going to hold my hand up.
All right, yes. David's saying no spoilers. So we're going to hold our hands up.
Yeah, I'm going to hold my hand up.
Right, and when we put our hands down, you can watch again. All right.
Just, so last warning. Turn off your sound. So, I think one of the best parts of Andor was the Sol Guerrera speech.
Yes.
That they had about rebellion
and like meth.
Being crazy. Yeah, while huffing meth. Probably one of the best Star Wars speeches there ever was.
Yeah,
anyway, hands down now.
That wasn't much of a spoiler, and that's going to spoil it for anyone. But very good. And even if you don't like Star Wars, you're not interested in Star Wars, you've never seen any Star Wars stuff, this is something else. And something that I really feel about this, it stays with me. Most Star Wars stuff, it's chewing gum. I watch it and go, right, that's it, and never think about it again.
Yep.
Right? But this is like Black Mirror. Days later, you're discussing it with your mates. It's like, oh, bloody hell, and it stays with you. Things people say, things that happen in it. It's incredibly well written. In fact, one of the writers on it is Bo Wilmington, Williamson, who was the writer of the American version of House of Cards. I think.
Yes, it explains a lot.
Yeah, politics. Yeah. But yeah, very, very good. Christy says, I don't like Star Wars. Good. Watch it. Watch Andor, because there's nothing like the rest of Star Wars.
That would be a really interesting experiment. Getting someone who doesn't like Star Wars to watch Andor.
Well, it's a completely different genre. Yeah. It's not space fantasy. It's sci-fi. If it wasn't dressed in the Star Wars universe, it would just be a straight sci-fi show, like Blake 7. It's closer to Blake 7, actually, than it is to Star Wars. But yeah, well recommended. Okay, so let's crack on. We talked about Finland, NATO, potential flashpoint there. Let's talk about another border skirmish.
Oh, yes.
India-Pakistan.
India-Pakistan. Oh.
Ceasefire or smoke break?
Oh. Let's give the quick TDLR for the people to catch everyone up to where we've been. So initially, this all kicks off with a militant group that attacked Indian tourists in Kashmir. India gets really pissed off about this and strikes back not only into Pakistan-controlled Kashmir, but into parts of Pakistan as well. This then provokes a response then for Pakistan. They now fire back. And at this moment in time, that, I believe, has been it. Both sides are calling victory, because of course they will. And hey, if they both want to claim victory, and that means there's no more fighting, hey, India, Pakistan, congratulations. You've both done a stunning victory there for for yourselves. Crack on with your victories. But yeah, if that is it, we can
Yeah.
hope that this doesn't escalate, because these are two nuclear powered countries. India had a meeting with the army group that is in control of its nuclear arsenal about this prior to a couple of days ago. So it is all, this is all one of those situations, guys, where hope for the best and hope that nothing escalates after this, because we've seen these types of wars break out before between India and Pakistan. And if it does, things will get a bit more nervous in that region.
Yeah.
The last
I don't see how there could be any kind of
yeah.
maybe I'm a bit too much of a romantic, but I think just from a practical sense side of things, right? You got 200 million Muslims living in India, and I just don't think they're going to take very well to Pakistan
Mm.
being, attacked in that way. It's going to create a lot of internal problems in India,
Yep.
and then there's the
I
fact that they're
I
both
read a
nuclear
piece today
armed. I mean,
saying
it's
exactly
just
that.
not worth it. Both of those countries are trying to dig themselves out of the fucking holes that they were left in by the British 80 years ago, and this kind of thing, it just makes things more
Mm.
difficult for them to do that. I would imagine that Modi spent more time fretting over the British, the UK, India trade deal last week that was
Oh yeah.
announced, and he spent fretting over what's happening with Pakistan, because there's it's just a black hole. It's not going to make them any money. They're just going to be wasting
Yeah.
people's
Modi doesn't want this.
lives for no reason.
Modi doesn't want this for two reasons. A, it'll be bad for his economy.
Yeah, that's it.
Like,
That's
full
probably the
stop.
only reason, to be honest with you.
Exactly. It'll
I don't think
be
he's got any
bad for his
moral
economy.
problem
It's
with
not gonna work.
invading Pakistan. He's not.
Yeah.
He's quite the
Second of
Indian
all,
nationalist.
the Indian army has had massive problems
Oh,
when
really?
it's come to procurement. Um, if you want to look up something quite comedic, look up about their in-house tank project called the Arjun, and how basically it was like absolutely destroyed by corruption in it. The Indian army is not in a very, very good spot, especially when you compare it to sort of Pakistan, who has maybe taken a bit more of their army a bit more seriously. They still have their obvious own problems when it comes to corruption, but it is at least probably in a bit more better fighting state than probably India's army is. Not that India's army, isn't either.
Yeah.
There will still be, a clash between the two, but if it is, it will be probably, World War One style, like we're seeing in Ukraine at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine that. So let's should we go over to Argentina for a little bit? Let's check in with our
Oh,
favourites, chainsaw wielding psychopath, Javier Milei. What's he up to this week?
oh my. So hold on to your hats for this. So last time we covered Millet was when he had his whole one of the biggest loans from the World Bank in physical cash, because Millet was desperate for dollars, because he's dollarized the peso and he's basically put a time bomb underneath his economy. Now, because he's, quote, proven the economists wrong, as he's been going around saying, he's now going to torpedo his political alliance he has with the centrist conservative party in Argentina, which is pretty much keeping him in power. And it's
Mauricio Macri. His name is Macri.
It's
Who is
also the
sort of
only thing that's keeping him in check.
Centre right party, and he wants to hobble them.
Yep. Is the only thing that is keeping him in check, shall we say. If you think you've seen full Millet, you haven't seen anything yet. So if he does succeed in trying to marginalize that party, then Millet is going to go full. And I mean full libertarian. You think you've seen him slash things, get rid of entire government departments. We ain't seen nothing yet.
Well,
because he's going to go ballistic. He is going to go ballistic.
So we kind of need those people keeping him in line. And then I think there's the difference between Millet and Trump. Like Trump's got no one holding him back. Like, I mean, he's got to accept this gift, this $400 million chintzy, tasteless, tacky, gold-plated airplane from Qatar. He's going to accept this gift. He's going to keep it for himself once he's not president anymore. And there's been hardly a murmur of discontent from his not just the Republicans, but also his fan base. I think that Shapiro creep had a whinge about it. Ben Shapiro, that's what he said.
Yeah, the most milquetoast criticism I've seen.
Yeah. Not great, is it?
No. This is one of those situations where it's just like, oh, this could go so bad. Like if he's successful in this, you know, I've said it before. If you are from Argentina, you know, good luck. Good luck, because things are going to get very bad if he succeeds, because he's going to go crazy.
But I mean, isn't he being like hauled over the coals at the moment for this crypto scam that he pulled? Crypto scams that Trump gets away with.
Yes and no. Like I say, that party is protecting him, which is another reason why this seems to be a dumb move to get rid of them.
Right. So he's gambling his presidency on destroying the centre right, isn't he?
Yeah. And if he succeeds, what does he actually win?
I don't know. His only skill is destroying stuff. His only skill is setting fires. He can't actually create anything. He just gets rid of stuff that other people have created. Is your hay fever doing your head in?
No, just got a tickly cough at the moment.
Oh, no. Oh, sorry, man. I'm Philip saying, wow, guys, that's a fraction warmer than it was in soft southern England today. It tends to feel hotter here, though, because the air isn't as fresh. The air's very fresh here in Durham, I have to say. Okay, Pakistan has 40 warheads, says Chris C. Whereas India has 150. Oh my god! Somebody said like he can't see Modi in India like being bothered about the voter base that is the Muslims. No, I'm not talking about them voting. I'm talking about people in India creating trouble for Modi because as a result of. I mean, imagine if you had a country and you declared war on Germany. And you had 200 million Germans living in your country. And that's not quite the same. But, yeah.
Again, Modi really relies a lot on, I think, the Hindu majority. Very, very much relies on the very hard nationalistic Hindu majority in India. But even they're starting to cool on him as well. I think they recently had elections not too long ago, and he lost a lot of votes. He lost a lot of support.
Yeah.
You know, so he's not in the best state either. So he really can't afford a war, I think, at this point. So I can't see him. I hope it, you know, fingers crossed and all that, but you know, hope it doesn't escalate.
So
going to really destabilize the region.
America's stopped the sanctions. He's halted the sanctions against Syria. Now that Al-Assad is out of the picture.
That was actually I think the only good thing that has happened was that this visit to Middle East, and again, probably because of the Saudis. Yeah. Because they want a stable Syria.
Yeah.
And I think at the moment, the people who are there also want a very stable Syria. I've been seeing some good stuff about saying, you know, let's bring everyone in. Let's not try and, you know, discriminate against anyone from any like particular background or religion. We're going to bring everyone together. We've had enough of war. Let's try and sort of end this, which is fantastic.
If it all
Syria's
works out.
been. Yeah, it is. I hope it works out. Like I say, I hope it works out because Syria's been through enough. it needs honestly a good period of peace, and I think
Yeah,
that dropping those tariffs will help it because
yeah,
obviously it needs its economy. It
yeah.
needs that economy to start working again, and that will help bring stability to the country. So
There's two
that is good.
amazing UNESCO World Heritage sites in Syria which are well worth checking out. One of them is the Crac de Chevalet, which is an old Crusader castle.
Mm.
It's still there. You can go and visit. And the other one is Palmyra, which is out in the desert, and it was an old Greco-Roman town. A lot of it was destroyed by ISIS. Um, Hopefully, some of it was getting rebuilt. Then, the civil war was continuing on, so hopefully reconstruction there is going to recommence. But I found like all the atrocities carried out by ISIS were absolutely horrific,
Mm.
and the human cost was just beyond measure. But two things really stuck out for me, just in terms of human culture that they destroyed, and one of them was Palmyra in
Yep.
Syria. The other one was in northern Mali, in the desert in Mali, in Timbuktu, and places around there where they destroyed these mud palaces, these mud forts and castles that were hundreds, thousands of years old, and they destroyed them. And they've been restored, like, you know
Yeah, to the best of
to the
the
best of the
abilities, but yeah.
ability. But there's something about going to an ancient monument like Palmyra or like the pyramids, or the Acropolis, the Parthenon, and putting your hand on the
Mm.
stone and realizing that was cut by somebody 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. Somebody chiseled that out, and that connection with the past is lost. I mean, okay, great, restore this stuff, but that whole horror show that happened with ISIS, and it only happened because of the invasion of Afghanistan and the invasion of Iraq. No way, no way. Saddam Hussein, if he was still alive, I know he's a complete gobshite who gassed his own people, but he wouldn't have allowed that to happen. He wouldn't have allowed ISIS to run riot through his country and take over Mosul and Kirkuk, and it was just a horrible, horrible time. Leapshin is saying that I need to tell you that you need to grow a Tom Selleck mustache if you're going to do that shirt any justice.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Person
Maybe I'll get a fake one maybe next time.
yeah. Person impersonator. Were ISIS really any worse than the horrors performed by the IDF? No. The IDF have done some really horrific, horrible things. They have destroyed historic buildings across Gaza.
Mm.
They've destroyed hospitals, schools, museums, and they've killed so many people. And now we're looking at 500,000 people starving at the moment, starving tonight in Gaza because the Israelis have done that. And it's that all these incredibly rich people, these rich and powerful people, are meeting in Saudi Arabia, just a few hundred miles away, and they're not even addressing it. They don't even care. And I think that's the most frustrating thing, because I'm sure if you and I had the power, we would do something about it.
Yeah.
They have the power to do something about it, and they're choosing not to.
Yeah, this is one of the things I really hope is we have seen Palestinians really start to protest against Hamas,
Yeah.
saying we no longer want you in charge. You should go. You should step aside. Let something else take your place. Just end this.
Yeah.
Just stop this. Step aside and stop this. And they're being incredibly brave in doing that, especially against Hamas.
Yeah.
Because people have been killed and disappeared.
Well, the lawyers in representing the UK government have claimed that there's no evidence that a genocide is occurring in Gaza in order to export arms to Israel. They're saying there's no evidence. Are you kidding me? Are all the pictures and the footage of clearly starving children? Is that not evidence? Is the images of completely flattened towns and cities and villages that are just rubble? Is that not evidence?
Yeah.
Like,
it's a massive, I think there's we're going to look back on this. And I think so many people are just going to say, why did we allow this to happen?
Yeah.
In the future, it's a massive condemnation of, honestly, of a lot of
completely
governments.
undermines the idea of Israel. The whole concept of Israel is undermined by what they're doing. Anyway, Tim Ballum, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. A lot of hay fever is allegedly caused by monoculture, especially of trees planted by the councils and towns and cities, especially the London Plain. Yes, they're not all male trees. When we replaced the elm trees after the great Dutch elm disease pandemic of the 1970s and 80s, they were replaced with male trees because they didn't want fruit growing, dropping on the pavement, people slipping on the fruit, and then suing the council, essentially. And all across the UK, Europe, America, they just planted male trees. Some places they didn't. So go to Seville. Go to Seville, walk down the street in late summer and pick the oranges off the trees and eat one. It's great. But yeah, we don't do that over here. Also, I think people are like, oh no, I don't want people having free food. I'm not having people pick free pears and apples from the trees. You know, you got to work. You got to work for that food, scrounger. Can't have people scrumping to send them off to Australia. One last super chat we got from Tim Ballum, £2 super chat. Thank you very much. No arms to Israel equals more US sanctions. Yeah. It's a fucking crazy time to be alive. Christy said, I wonder if it was the other way around, where the Palestinians committing genocide against the Israelis, the world would be as silent. Well, I mean, as someone said earlier, could you imagine if Biden was given a $400 million dollar jet plane from the
Republicans would be up in arms?
You'd be like, what? Anyway, okay, well, listen, we better get going because I think that our friend Maximilian Robespierre has just started on his channel. So if anyone was watching us who came over from the Bin podcast, so welcome. We're going to shunt you over now.
We're going to shift you over again.
Shunt you over again to go and watch Max on Max's channel. And I hope you have a good time over there. Just want to say a big thank you to my co-host, Ollie Bowlerhatman. Thank you so much. And if you're not following Ollie's channel now, if you're not subscribed to Ollie's channel, please click on his name in the description and it will take you to his channel and you can hit the subscribe button. Give a like on the way out, as we always ask. We always like a like. And until next time, I'll say thank you so much for the messages. Thank you so much for the super chats. Thanks for watching. I'll be back at 9 o'clock in the morning for Morning Brew. Hope to see you then. And until then, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.
Bye.
The ending worked.